Max Holloway's performance was nothing short of masterful. Nothing short of masterful. The way he handled Aldo, the way he yelled at me after the first round. He gets done with the round and he runs, he's going back to his, and he looks at me and goes, "The man is tired! The man is tired!" He's a motherfucker. Dude, Max Holloway is a real fucking warrior.
Money make the world go round. I'm trying to get it all right now. Everybody work with the crowd, bitch. Look, call me on the man right now. Talking to a PI, kind of time we are. Don't go like the guy to take eons. Better go best, time to go beyond. Can't go back, no time to get rewind. Yeah, she wants to do that last.
Well, and you gotta give credit to Poirier too, because if you look at the two of them, like after the fight, there was a big difference between the amount of damage that Poirier landed. A big difference. He was hitting him with big shots.
Who's the best guy you fought that had kicks like that you said, "Oh man, this is a
Gaethje probably. He partially tore my quad. Gaethje.
Wow, he throws him hard.
Yeah,
he throws everything hard
for his body. Like he'll put him like so into the fight. Him not caring about position and throwing kicks as hard as he can just to land them. Not worried about like the repercussion.
Kind of like
and he just turned a corner and then became the baddest motherfucker in the weight class.
Yeah.
Not just the baddest motherfucker in the weight class, but one of the best motherfuckers in the sport.
Surprise, surprise! There's a new king in the lightweight division!
The circle of violence in the fighting game. In fact, it's quite an interesting topic that touches on 5 of the most violent performers in the world's best league at the moment. Today, we will remember the main career moments of all the listed guys and how they cross paths with each other. Please don't forget about the likes, comments with forwards, and subscribe to the channel. Here we go. Today's curious story about the key figures of the major promotion dates back to February of 2012. At that moment, the future UFC champion arrived in the UFC, a very young and far from being blessed prospect named Max Holloway. Before signing the contract with the world's best league, this guy had a very modest record of 4 wins and 0 defeats. Despite that, it happened to be more than enough for the promotion's representative to reach out to him and make him an offer. As a debut opponent, the Hawaiian was given another rising prospect, Dustin Poirier. At that time, the Louisianan was not only conquering the mixed martial arts, but also the UFC organization coming from a league called WEC. His professional experience in the cage was 3 times more than Max's, as Dustin had a record of 11-1. As we already said, in the beginning of 2012, the matchmakers put these two against each other at UFC 143.
That he's been training in MMA since he was a sophomore in high school. It's really no surprise that Hawaiian newcomer Max Holloway has made it to the UFC, where at just 20 years old, he is the youngest fighter currently on the roster. Tonight, he takes a big step up against Dustin Poirier, one of the featherweight division's fastest rising stars.
At that time, 20-year-old Holloway was the youngest guy on that roster, which played a key factor on that fight. Due to having more experience, Dustin Poirier managed to force wrestling on his opponent, take him down and keep him on the ground, only to execute a triangle and armbar all at the same time and get a submission of the night award.
Man, I'm happy. You know, I came here to get a win and I finished the fight. I'm here to be a champion, man. One punch at a time, I'm gonna be a champion.
3.5 years later, there was a battle in the featherweight division between a young 23-year-old Max and a rising Brazilian prospect, Charles Oliveira. In fact, the Bronx arrived in the UFC in 2010, also in August, by the way before Holloway and Poirier. However, by the time he was put against the Blessed One, he was ranked number 7, while the Hawaiian was occupying the number 5 spot. Both had winning streaks on their records, 4 for Oliveira and 6 for Holloway. so the fight between the two was set for August the 23rd at the Fight Night event. My past opponents have tried to keep the fight standing, but I think he'll be surprised with my striking, and I will take him to the ground and submit him.
I train jiu-jitsu, I train wrestling, and I'm ready for whatever, you know. So wherever the fight go, I'll be great. But you know, I see this fight being a great stand-up war.
Since their debut, it was the first main event for both fighters in their careers. However, if some of you remember, its ending was rather anticlimactic. The fight had to be stopped almost in the very beginning in less than 2 minutes from the start. The Brazilian warrior got injured prior to the tournament, which affected him on the day of the fight. As we know, it was a micro tear of the esophagus, which paralyzed Charles's left side of the body for 4 hours after the end of the show. Not many people know about this detail, but now you do.
Everybody, send your prayers to Charles, you know. This might be a title contention shot, but I believe one guy deserves it, and that's Frankie Edgar, so...
Now, let's move to April of 2018. By that moment, the world's best league signed a new potential brawler and a knockout artist who was undefeated prior to his debut in the UFC. This version of Justin Gaethje was a machine with no reverse gear that jumped straight into action until he breaks his opponents or drops dead before his knees. Before his arrival in the promotion, a young highlight had a record of 18-0 and was already famous for his ruthless scraps in regional organizations. But after beating Michael Johnson in his debut that took place in July of 2017, Justin suffered his first loss in the fight against Eddie Alvarez. 4 months later, the organization offered him to build himself back up by fighting Dustin Poirier. The Diamond has already established himself inside the UFC a long time ago, and after moving to the lightweight division, he began a slow but successful campaign on ascending to the very top.
I'm 18-0 at 15 knockouts. Has anybody in the history of MMA fighting had 15 knockouts in their first 18 fights?
It's more mental, you know. The physical work's done. I'm ready for 5 rounds hard, but it's more mental. It's like I'm ready to bleed. I know I'm gonna have to leave a piece of myself in there Saturday night, and I'm willing to do that. I know what's at stake. I know the kind of fighter he is. I know the kind of fighter I need to be to get the win. And you know, that stuff's intriguing to me. I appreciate that stuff. I honor that. That's what fighting means. It is. This isn't, you know, you don't play this. That Saturday night is the definition of being a fighter. You know, that feeling I'm gonna have in there in the later rounds when we're both bleeding and I pull through and get my hand raised. That's what I do this for.
The fighters delivered an unbelievable performance, which deserves to be called the battle for the ages. Who would have thought that these monsters would stay at the top of the division for the next 6 years? In other words, they showed all the beauty of the striking technique the best lightweights in the world can have in their arsenal. And the winner in this battle happened to be Dustin Poirier, who again, thanks to his experience, managed to weather the storm from the highlight and find an opportunity to finish him in a brilliant fashion.
I kind of heard it on the walk out to the cage. They were booing me and yelling crazy stuff, you know, but and I heard, you know, they obviously cheered him and booed me when I walked out. But hey, like I said, hometowns, townhomes, family reunions, I'll beat you anywhere.
A year later, the Diamond from Louisiana put his name on the map once again. Besides the fact that the air around him channeled unshakable confidence, the fighter stated himself that it was his time to shine. After the victory over Gaethje, Dustin got rid of a former champion in Eddie Alvarez.
Dustin Poirier closes the rivalry!
And due to some confusion in the division related to Khabib Nurmagomedov's suspension, he got a chance to contest the interim title while the undisputed champion was absent. The one to be his dance partner happened to be the Hawaiian, who after their first fight became the UFC champion and defended his belt from hungry contenders 2 times. Yes, as you already figured out, Max Holloway decided to move up in weight, not putting his championship at risk, to hit 2 birds with the 1 stone. First of all, avenge his only stoppage loss in his career, and after beating Poirier, fortify his legacy with the 2nd title. The fight was the main event at UFC 236.
I do. I believe I'm going to win Saturday night. And a lot of people want predictions. It's going to be a tough fight. This might be the best fight anybody's ever seen. You know, I don't know. This is going to be a grueling fight, I believe. He's going to be in there with no quit, as am I. and I'm going to walk away with the belt. Like I said, I don't know a prediction, but I feel like I'm going to stop him, and it's going to be a one for the times, man.
You know, look, Khabib said he wanted to fight me, but he wanted me to prove myself. And I got Dustin, and April 13th, I decided to prove myself. I'm going to go out there and prove myself, and when he's ready to come back, I'll be ready.
Yeah, it might benefit him. He might come in feeling better than ever, and I'm expecting that. This is going to be a hell of a fight. This is both of us, our fight IQ, this is a high-level fight. We have 40 fights between us in the UFC. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a fight, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the moment, the challenge. Not only do I accept this and look forward to this, I honor this. I go to bed at night. I can't wait. 25 minutes. Let's go.
Even though both fighters started their journey in the featherweight division, even the build of their frames makes it clear that Dustin looks denser and more suited for 155 pounds. The Hawaiian's physique didn't allow him to compete with the Diamond in the stand-up on a decent level. However, we can't help but give credit to his inhuman chin. The mere fact that these monsters spent 25 minutes in the octagon purely on the feet, being snipers and natural-born killers at what they do, already deserves huge respect. But the shots of the Louisianan happened to be more significant, which led to him winning via unanimous decision and becoming the interim champion.
Man, this feels amazing. I feel like I'm in a dream right now. I just beat one of the pound-for-pound best in the world. To be the best, you gotta beat the best.
By May of 2021, the landscape in the lightweight division changed significantly. The Dagestani Eagle retired from the sport and vacated his undisputed championship. This move opened the doors for other contenders. By that time, another very experienced and extremely dangerous beast arrived in the world's best league, who already made a name for himself and had a successful career in the organization called Bellator. The best years of Michael Chandler inside the promotion went hand in hand with the title bouts, not to mention the fact that he was a 3-time lightweight champion and one of the most spectacular fighters in the history of the organization.
That was a nice shot. Oh, he's down. And it's all over! Just like that! Michael Chandler!
It's so amazing. I think I, was a little excessive, but there was a ton of people there, and I have such an amazing support system.
Or more so, we know that the Iron One was a backup fighter for the farewell bout of Khabib Nurmagomedov in October of 2020, but didn't perform as the event went without issues and his services were not needed. After that, already in January of the next year, Chandler had an official debut in the UFC, stopping Dan Hooker via TKO in the first round. Back then, the restrictions due to the pandemic were still intact, so the representatives of the world's best league decided to put the vacant lightweight championship on the line to add some hype to the upcoming event. Michael was set to fight none other than Charles Oliveira, who since losing to the Hawaiian went through a lot of change. He moved up in weight, toughened up, gained a lot of experience and became a truly well-rounded fighter who is able to find a finish in any given situation. On top of that, at that time he was the only active contender on a winning streak, which did not leave any questions for the matchmakers.
Well, the guy's been on a tear forever. Timing hasn't worked out as well for him as it has for Michael Chandler, but he finally got here, and always been a dangerous guy, has had some ups and downs in his career, but talented dude, and here he is.
I've been in the sport for over a decade. It'll be 13 years in August. My resume does speak for itself. I have dismantled 2 former UFC champions. So I love my resume, I love my past, I love my ups and I love my downs. I think my show that I put on against Dan Hooker, doing in 2.5 minutes what Dustin Poirier couldn't do in 25, what Paul Felder couldn't do in 25 minutes, I believe that was indicative of getting this title shot, not to mention the fact that I came in right away, kicked down the door, said yes to every opportunity, showed up with my work boots on, just like my dad did as a union carpenter for the last 40 years. And I show up, I'm a working man.
11 years, there were losses, I heard, and I learned, and I'm really happy for this opportunity.
In the spring of 2021, the new star of mixed martial arts was born. Charles Oliveira, who debuted in the world's best league 11 years ago, finally got the recognition that he worked so hard for all this time. he rose like a phoenix in front of thousands of fans at the arena in Texas, knocking Michael Chandler out in the beginning of the second round and becoming the new lightweight champion after the Dagestani. I'm fresh, dude. 11 years of history waiting for this opportunity, and do you think this dude would take it away from me? After his first loss in the major promotion, Michael Chandler did not despair. No wonder, his entire career before the UFC simply screams that this monster is never going to give up halfway in. In other words, not willing to lower the bar of spectacle, craziness, and level of opposition. He got the next name on his hit list, Justin Gaethje. Since his first losses in the promotion, the highlight also had time to make a lot of proper adjustments and shine in front of the fans in a new light. After switching up his wild style, though not decreasing the level of violence and savagery in the actual performances, soon he racked up a win streak and became the interim champion after beating Tony Ferguson via TKO. However, he failed to conquer the undisputed title. After taking a break for more than a year, Justin decided to have a second title run, which started with the head of the Iron One, whose status of a recent contender was perfect for his successful return.
He fights the same as I do. We both fireworks from the beginning. I know he's going to try to finish it first round, but he's going to turn into a wrestler real quick, talking about taking steps backwards. We'll see who's the best when he starts shooting for legs.
First fight of the night. This is why we went to the first fight of the night. We're starting off with a bang, starting off with the fireworks. Get your pay-per-view early at the show open. Justin Gaethje goes out and won.
These two explosive machines with dynamite and C4 in their hands and other body parts delivered one of the most ferocious massacres of 2021. The tension, change of the initiatives, screams and shouts from the stands, everything was all-time high on that night. Not only did Justin Gaethje put Michael Chandler through a test, but he also learned firsthand what it feels like to get hit by a jacked and furious monster who is willing to rip your head off. Either way, against all expectations, the guys managed to make it to a decision, in the result of which Highlight returned to the win column while the Iron One suffered his second loss inside the UFC, though he put on a brawl that went down in history.
He is a warrior. We were living in the wrong times, let me tell you. Me and him should have been fighting to death in a Coliseum. That's what should have happened.
Well, it's time for Charles Oliveira's first title defense, right? A lot of time passed since May, and it was the moment when Bronx had to prove his true worth. His opponent happened to be the title contender in Dustin Poirier. Since the Louisianan became the interim champion, he already had time to fight for the undisputed title. Back then, he couldn't handle the Dagestani Eagle and went for the second lap of getting credence from the matchmakers. During that time, the Diamond masterfully beat Dan Hooker and managed to return the favor to the notorious Irishman twice. When the Brazilian got on the throne of the lightweight division, Dustin figured that it was his chance, and he challenged the new champion on December the 11th at UFC 269.
Great honor to be here next to the GOAT. It's been a long path, and my path has led to this. I'm here for this. I deserve this, and that's why I'm here.
Being the world champion is forever. 25 till eternity. That's what's going through my head every night when I go to sleep. You know, and it means a lot to me, man. I can't put into words truly what it means to me and my family.
Despite the huge experience and the fact that Dustin went through tens of wars to the death, he couldn't withstand the pressure and jiu-jitsu of Bronx. At the elite level, meaning at the very top of the food chain, the smallest details are crucial. And such details happen to be Charles's focus on the ground game and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The first title defense of Oliveira was more than successful and ended in the third round via submission choke.
I'm here to make history. I'm here to prove to people that I can. You tell me what you thought about the fight tonight.
We hope that you kept track of the events and did not forget that in November of 2021, Justin Gaethje came back into the game and put on a brawl with Michael Chandler, which was given a Fight of the Year award. This victory happened to be more than enough for Justin to put his claims on the title shot. After all, Dustin Poirier was already given a chance, right? So the highlight believed that he also deserved to fight for the championship a second time. The Brazilian warrior did not really care about the contenders' names, as he was absolutely confident in his powers. So on May the 7th of 2022, in the main event of UFC 274, he shared the octagon with the merciless Justin Gaethje with the championship on the line.
He's gonna have to find me, making a mistake, overreaching, and try to get into a grappling situation. Outside that, he better be praying every day that he gets me to the ground, because if not, it's gonna be same night as Chandler, except 5 rounds. And if I went 5 rounds with Chandler, he would have died.
It doesn't matter. It's not going to affect one thing tomorrow night. I'm here to knock him out. I was here to knock him out before he didn't make weight.
As many of you already know, there was an issue prior to the event.
Screwed in his last fight. There was some shenanigans with the scale. Some people had messed with the scale. Here's a problem with these digital scales. Foreign fighters, they use kilograms, and in America, obviously, we use pounds.
Right.
And so the foreign fighters were like, these scales are calibrated, and then the foreign fighters would reset the scale so they could switch it back to kilograms. So it f***ed up the whole calibration.
Oh, I see.
And so he would weigh in, or he weighed in like the night before the weigh-ins. He was like, oh, I'm good to go. And then in the morning, he goes and shows up for the weight cut, and it's a pound plus off. And that is directly related to this calibration thing.
Due to some problems with weight cutting and a miscalibration of the scales, the champion did not make the limit of 155 pounds, and that meant that even in case of a win over the highlight, on paper, he wouldn't be a legitimate title holder, and the successful performance wouldn't count as a second title defense for him. Overall, that's exactly how it went down. Charles Oliveira made a sensation and stopped Justin in the first round. However, he couldn't keep the title and became the People's Champ.
Hey, there's something missing here. The champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira from the Bronx.
Yeah, it's a crazy game we play. It's the reason I love it. It's a game of inches. At the end of the day, being at home in front of my crowd, sometimes you lose control of your emotions. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I had the time of my life, but it's a crazy game we play.
After the second loss in the title fight, Dustin Poirier did not give up. He stayed in the division and began to wait for some interesting offers with big names. Such came along 11 months later. As we already said, after the win in his debut, Michael Chandler suffered 2 crushing defeats in the UFC, though they were the cherries on top of those events. After that, he got an opportunity to share the octagon with the veteran Tony Ferguson, whom Iron Mike sensationally knocked out for the first time in his professional career. Then, in the end of 2022, the World's Best League put on its 281st event, where Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler went against each other.
No, Mike was very professional there. He kept it moving. But that was the first time I seen him in person since Abu Dhabi and since he went on record saying all this stuff. So when I saw him, I wanted to tell him what I thought about him. Of course, I can tweet it and do it in interviews, but I don't do that type of stuff. I'd rather tell him when I see him. That's what that was.
I mean, I think I can knock him out. I think he can knock me out. I think we both have the confidence there on the feet.
Like all the previous times, Iron Mike gave it 110%. He went all out, putting on another war inside the main octagon, and gave the Diamond such a whooping that he hadn't experienced for a long time. However, he couldn't keep that pace for all 15 minutes. So in the end, it led to his fatigue and Dustin Poirier's victory via submission choke over Chandler for the first time in his MMA career.
Feeling good, man. I had 11 months to sit back and sit on a loss. And I was trying to get fights that whole time. Nothing came through, nothing materialized. I'm not sure whose fault it was, but I was training back home. Just sitting on that championship loss, it hurts. But it drove me to get better and come in here and get the W tonight.
And the final chapter of today is the second fight between the Louisianan and Highlight that perfectly fitted the UFC 291 card in the summer. By that time, Justin Gaethje bounced back once again after losing in the title bout. Back in March of 2023, being a veteran, he kept his spot in the rankings and humbled a young prospect in the face of Rafael Fiziev. Soon, the World's Best League recalled that they have a symbolic BMF title which would be perfect for the fight between Justin and Dustin, who ultimately failed to conquer the undisputed championship after 2 attempts. Poirier faced Gaethje in a fundamental rematch on July the 29th in the main event of UFC 291.
I mean, every fight you prepare for is the reason why we're such big fans of this sport is because it's so anything, anytime, you know, any shot, one shot's all it takes. And yeah, this guy is dangerous, you know, and you know, usually, you know, I've accepted that this is a 50-50 fight in my mind, and with the, you know, with the chance at retribution, it's been driving me every day.
And it was 5 years ago I beat him. He's done great things. I've done great things. And we were just on a collision course, it seemed, to do it again. Number 2, number 3, number 1's fighting the champ. So it just makes sense, I think, in the division as well.
It means everything, you know, chance of redemption. I can't wait to blow the roof off this place. Let's go.
A lot of things have changed since the first fight of these dogs. It has been more than 5 years, during which Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje had a similar path with an identical number of vivid victories and defeats to the same people. And the rematch went down as it should. Though, of course, we are not being biased and don't side with either of them, the highlight managed to pay back to his rival and finished him with a devastating high kick in the beginning of the second round.
You know, in the cage after the fight, I said, "Hey, man, if we let's both agree to never fight each other again." I said, "Unless you have to have it, then you know I'm here." But we're 1-1, so we'll see. You know, I would never deny him that opportunity, just like he did not deny me that opportunity. But you know, I don't want it to be my next fight.
And now, we're about to witness another collision between the main horsemen of the World's Best League, which is set on April the 13th, and the anniversary UFC 300 event. Very soon, the blessed Max Holloway will clash with Justin Gaethje to contest the BMF title and continue to write history in real time.
The fights that interest me and intrigue me, and you know, and fights that the fans want to see. So we got a bunch ahead of us, but first things first, we got to handle business at UFC 300 and take on Justin Gaethje.
This fight has been scheduled 3 times, but this is the time that matters. Another fight. 50 wins between them, 34 finishes, 2 of the best strikers in the sport, 2 of the most durable fighters in the sport, 2 of the most aggressive guys in the sport. Gaethje destroys all guys with leg kicks and power in both hands. Max is regarded by many to be the best boxer in the UFC and has made many top 10 guys look like they don't even belong there with him.
I mean, I'm pumped. You know, I fight for a living. You know, I love being under those lights, especially UFC 300 card, something this historic. You know, against a veteran and a legit legend like Max Holloway. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity. These are the good old days. You know,
Leave your opinion in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the new videos. And of course, hit the like button if you enjoyed this one. See you soon.